here. So that would be my main reasoning and priority there. I work in real estate as a realtor and had a mortgage loan originator license for some time too. So perspective from that as a profession to that I would bring with me as well. But for the most part, it's yes, making sure that the town uh, has responsible growth and maintains its character and charm.
Okay, thank you. Next is Joseph Baez here. Okay. Eric Ganesh.
Oh, Eric Ganesh. And I live in Tallahassee. I would lived in Florida for since 2014. I have a background in environmental science as with emphasis in land use and development. And the reason I want to be on the planning and zoning board is to, like Zach said, make sure that the town maintains its unique character as well as see responsible growth and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do and nobody tries to pull the wool over our eyes.
Okay, very good, thank you. Bruce Wallace.
Welcome. To Farmhouse. I've been Lake County resident about 27 years. Here in Howey-in-the-Hills, 11 years, maybe a little more than 11 years. I used to be on the board about, I don't know, 9 years ago, I'd say. And I had to leave the board at that time due to I had started a nonprofit with some other gentlemen to support some Florida youth sporting organizations. All of our kids have since grown up and graduated from high school, and I'm now retired. So I'd like to, get back involved in my community and in the town that I plan on being here for the rest of my life. I do have a past real estate experience, mortgage banking experience. I've sat on this board before. I've sat in boards up in Dayton, Ohio. But I'd like to see, there's always room for growth. There's room for everything, but balance things the right way. And that's pretty much me.
Okay, thank you. Leslie Broadbent. Okay. So at this point, we're looking for consideration and approval recommendation for who will take our open slot. Because Fran, you have not reapplied for yours, correct?
No, I have not. And for Alan, I wrote a little paper.
Okay.
Would you like me to read it?
For my benefit,
Just for
I
yours.
feel special.
Okay.
You're gonna get another look, Alan, be careful.
As my term comes to an end, I have made the decision not to to not seek reappointment. I came in more than 6 years ago with experience and qualifications of practicing and teaching real estate, and I have learned a lot. I used to tell my students, if you want to wield real power, be on planning and zoning. It has been a privilege to serve with all of you on this board, and I look forward to working with you in the future as I hope to move on to bigger and better things. Thank you.
Very good. So at this point, we've heard from 3 of our candidates. 2 candidates, you should have their application. And so we're really at this point looking for recommendations to move forward to town council regarding the open position. Does anyone have questions for the candidates?
So I'll say, since I don't have a dog in this race, that if you can't show up to apply for the position, we should throw your name out.
Agreed.
So there is some obligation to be here and serve. So that leaves us with 3 candidates. So question would be to each of you. How many planning and zoning meetings have you come to in the last year or ever, if ever? So I don't know if you want to come back up to the box and take a turn at answering that question. That would be awesome. And while I'll give you both questions that I have, so you don't have to keep filing past each other. And the second thing is, how many town council meetings have you attended in the last year or if ever?
Well, for me, you'd probably have to go back to the year prior. Over this last year, I had some heart procedures done, so I really wasn't available to come this past year too often. But prior to that, I've attended. I mean, I couldn't give you a number, but I never missed a zoning meeting while I was on the zoning board. And I think a couple people were here when I know she was here. And I think I left about the time you came. But
We were on it together.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I've always attended online. I've been to several council meetings. Like I said, not as it would have been about a year ago, the last one that I came to when I had my heart procedure done, though.
Thank you.
While you're up there, can I ask you another question?
Sure.
As we sit here and make decisions and look back at stuff that prior boards have done, a lot of times we're frustrated by the decisions that were made earlier and feel kind of handcuffed that we can't fix it because the direction of the town is going in a less growth direction if we listen to the constituents versus maybe what the boards were before. On your prior experience with the board, what was your perception of it then? Did you see an anxious
No, I
way to
think
grow or what
no, I
was?
think the board back, when I was on it was still, we were actually handcuffed on a lot of things that were approved like back before the bank crisis and stuff like that, before some of these places stopped. I'm not sure off of number 2 road what all those five acre parcels are, where none of that stuff, a lot of that stuff went into taxes weren't paid on. But a lot of these things we couldn't do anything about, and then they just came back around later when the economy got better. And so I think way back then they should have probably built in timeframes, like if you did not develop within a certain amount of time, you had to come back before us. You can't just make it a lifetime type of thing. And I think that's where we got handcuffed back then too, the same way I know on some of the projects you guys have been handcuffed. So the only thing, probably the biggest thing that we approved when I was on the board was the landscape business down the road.
Mhm.
And we had to build in that he wasn't going to put a striptease place in there and all these other things. But I mean, it seems like it turned out pretty good. And I'm not sure how much business they do, but I go there. So, but that was probably, I think, the biggest project that we approved, for the couple of years that I was on the board back at that time. And of course, we revisited, Venezia was being built, and I think we were involved back then on Talashe.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Well, as far as town council meetings and planning and zoning board meetings, I always look at what's on the agenda, and if I had an opinion on it for the planning and zoning meeting, I would at least attend via Zoom or via in person. I think over the past 3 years that I've lived here, I've attended maybe 5 or 6 planning and zoning meetings because it was an issue that I felt strongly about and that I had public comment on, so that I could actually try to help the board make an informed decision. Town council, I've been to countless town council meetings over the past 3 years. Anytime that there was something important or that I had public comment on, or that I had an actual opinion that I could help town council make the actual correct decision, what I perceive would be the correct decision. Whether or not town council or this board did that, that's yet to be determined on several aspects of several things. As far as like all the development agreements and things like that, they go, yes, the planning and zoning got handcuffed on a lot of different things because there were no sunset clauses or anything else like that built into any of those development agreements. And then, okay, we've changed the LDC. Now, oh no, well, wait, these are vested rights. So you can't tell them you can't do this, you can't do that. And yeah, most of the residents, they want less growth. They do. Or they want managed growth or larger lots, less houses, less commercial, less this. But you have to do it from a managed perspective because you have the interest of the town. Town's residents are, forgive me for saying, getting up in age. A lot of them are retired. A lot of them are mainly on fixed income. But if you want to bring more, with more people moving in, we need more revenue. And to bring in more revenue, we have to look at other things other than just the mill levy and property taxes, et cetera, because Howey's taxes are one of the highest in Lake County. So we do need some sales tax revenue. We do need responsible commercial growth. And with commercial and everything else like that, is this the right thing for that place? Or is there a better location for that type of business or this structure or this infrastructure, et cetera? And getting the developers and everything to make sure they're paying their fair share and not sticking it to the residents. That would be my view.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, thank you.
As far as attending planning and zoning meetings and town council meetings, this would be my first planning and zoning meeting. I have not attended any town council meetings, understanding that if selected for this, there's a responsibility with showing up and being in attendance for those items. And as a fairly new resident still to the town, see this as a way for me to get involved and to start being more involved with what's happening in Howey-in-the-Hills.
How long have you lived here?
It'll be 4 years this summer.
Oh, you did say, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.
I actually have a question for all three. So since you're standing, I'll propose it to all three of you. What do you think that we have done right? And what do you think that we have done wrong?
Can I make a general comment before that? So I do hear people talking about P and Z being handcuffed. Keep in mind, P and Z is a recommending body. We do not make decisions on certain things. That is done by town council. So we can recommend, but that doesn't mean that we're making a final decision. Certain things, yes, we are. Like tonight, we have elevations. That does not go before town council. But I want everybody to understand, especially the applicants, that we are a recommending body and we could recommend 7-0 and it could flip 5-0. So the big thing to remember is that we are just that recommendation. We have some stuff on tonight that we're making recommendations for land development code. They could tell us no. So town council is the ultimate people that make those decisions. Sorry.
Yeah, and on that note, I mean, it's my understanding that this is a more of an advisory board role. As far as things that have been done wrong, I really can't say of anything that I disagree with that the town has approved or that has happened around here. I think that there's a healthy, it seems to me there's a healthy mix of new development that's coming in. We've varied between townhouses that are going in front of Venezia to some new neighborhoods with some larger lot lines. I think where communities, especially our neighbors to the south of us, have run into problems is the mile after mile of zero lot line homes that serve a purpose for getting people into housing and whatnot, but also severely distract from the
You can keep going up. Don't mind me.
Don't look behind the curtain.
Oz or Wizard, which would you prefer to be called?
I really respond to any.
So yeah, I mean, I think the town's done a pretty good job thus far from what I've been able to see of incorporating different types of housing into the area. I think if they continue on that same path, because the growth is inevitable. I mean, it's not going to happen. So I think it's just continuing to be aware of that and intentional in what is developed and brought into the area as we move forward, but nothing that I can see that I would, be say that I was against.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As Josh pointed out, yes, I do know that planning and zoning is an advisory board, and I've been witness to what he's alluded to countless amounts of times. Planning and zoning recommended this, and town council said, "Go pound sand." And it's literally, you guys recommend, planning and zoning recommended it, 7-0 recommendation, and town council voted 5-0 to tell you to go fly a kite. On multiple different things, and then some of the things, but it's just the way it is. But there's lots of things that planning and zoning has done correctly. The recommendations for the additions and amendments to the LDC, those were much needed. And even though town council kind of picked them apart a little bit, to a certain extent, all of that stuff was actually the correct way to do things and to actually benefit the town in more ways than one. I don't think planning and zoning's done anything, so to say, wrong. Previous town councils may have thought that you guys were completely off in left field in certain things, and that's why they overrid what the recommendation from planning and zoning was. And other than that, we've got to do our best job at recommending the right thing for the right place and making sure that everything gets to town council, and town council is well informed on every aspect so that they can make the informed decision that they're supposed to do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess my experience would be that, I really can't say that you guys have done anything wrong. I thought one of your most recent decisions was a good decision, in regards to the 7-Eleven. I know a lot of people think, we're praising everybody on this, on this board. And I do understand that everything gets, passed on. I know that there's been other I've always felt that this board has gone really above and beyond to help people in the community when they've come here with an issue, whether it be a fencing issue or I know we made some changes or tried to clean up a bunch of things back in the day that had to do with what you can, where your boat had to be parked and all these different things. And I think a lot of that's gotten back to everybody in a good manner. I don't hear a lot about that. And as far as any bad decisions, I mean, I don't think there's any really bad decisions that have been made that even you yourselves would second guess. I mean, some decisions people may not agree with, but there's a lot of people in town. There's not just a handful of people. So I think that, the job ever since I've lived here has, everybody has worked together to make sure that the decisions benefit everybody in the community and not just a handful of people in the community. And I think that's, what I want to be a part of is doing what's best for the majority of people in this community, not just a handful of people. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
I have a question for all three, and he kind of opened the can of worms here. Of course, the last big decision on P and Z was December regarding the 7-Eleven. If we put aside our personal beliefs and our personal thoughts, What do you believe should have happened with the 7-Eleven based on town code?
Based on town code. I, my personal feeling is that's not really the place for it. We have a place, we have an entire area on this side of town, with the Publix and all that. I, I would assume there's probably going to be more than one gas station in that area. I mean, when you look at every other Publix, there's one all around it. Now, whether or not there is, I don't know if that's in the planning or not. But I think if I lived in that subdivision, I don't, I live right here, and I can tell you today, I purposely, because I was coming here and I purposely couldn't get, I counted 46 cars before I could get out onto 19 out of my driveway, which is just one block from here, so I started thinking, well, there's gonna be the 7-Eleven up there, Publix down there. I'm never gonna get out of my driveway, unless there's a light here, because the only way I'm gonna get out is if there's a light. Otherwise, I'm not gonna do it. But to me, right smack dab in front of my home, if I live there, yeah, I wouldn't like it. But I'm not a resident of Venezia. But I think there's better places for stuff like that than I mean, all this stuff about, crime and all that. I don't think it's going to attract a lot of crime or anything. I just don't think that's the place for it.
Thank you.
As far as the 7-Eleven goes, yeah, planning and zoning made the correct recommendation to the town. To deny the, what is it?
Conditional
CUP,
use.
yeah, conditional use, to deny the conditional use permit at that location. When town council had the quasi judicial hearing, there were, in my opinion, several errors with that hearing itself. In regards to how it was conducted, so on and so forth. But with the 7-Eleven and everything else, if I remember correctly, when Publix was approved, there's like, I think 3 or 4 out parcels.
4.
One of them was like a liquor store, another was a restaurant, another was a gas station on that parcel. Now there's a CDD over there, and town council went against everybody on that one. And when they allowed them to create the CDD, but there's nothing we can really do about that, because town council has the ultimate authority. But as far as the recommendation from planning and zoning, it was correct. That was that location right there is, it's the right use, but it's the wrong place. And that's what this board does, is make recommendations. You can remember, okay, based on this and based on that, on town code, yes. Without gas pumps, the 7-Eleven gets approved like that. But town council can still restrict its hours of operation under town code and the LDC. As soon as gas pumps, now you have to go through the whole quasi judicial hearing, because it is a conditional use permit, just like several other things are in town code for conditional use permits. Then you have the hearing, the whole 9 yards, and everything else like that. Based on the LDC town codes and everything else like that, everything was done the way it was supposed to from this board's end.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would be in agreement that I don't love where the gas station is going in. Recommendation for it to go in over where the Publix is going in, I think makes a lot more sense in terms of location of it. I don't think there's any much argument that there's a need, for a gas station, another gas station in the area. However, the location that it's going into, I don't love it. But I think on the flip side of that, you know, if you're somebody that lives in Venezia, I don't, you know, there was going to be something that was going to go in front of their commercial space. I think that's been known for a long time. And so, you know, the traffic component that goes into that, you know, any of the, you know, thoughts about, you know, increased crime levels or anything like that. I mean, you're going to get some of that to a certain extent with anything that goes in up there that's of a commercial nature. So, again, for the residents in that neighborhood, I wouldn't love it, but, I think they probably knew that at some point something was going to go in there. Um, and yeah, I think that it's needed. It just a better spot for it to land would be more appropriate by the publics.
Thank you. At this time, I'm looking for a recommendation.
I have a comment, and I don't know whether, well, I'll just put it out there. I think what the county commission does, is good. What they do is they divide up the county into different areas because each person can best represent the constituents in their area. Because they're very different. If you go up in the northeastern part of the county, where you get up past Eustis and Umatilla and up towards Astor and stuff, their needs and their desires for how their county is uniquely different than somebody that it represents Claremont, or maybe somebody that represents the older northwest part, the Fruitland Park, Lady Lake, Weirsdale. Everybody kind of it tries to listen to their friends and neighbors close to where they are and do what's good for them. I think it's important to have the different areas of our town represented too. Ideally, if we were in a perfect world, we would have one person that's a rancher, or one that owned an orange grove, and maybe one that lived in Venezia, one that lives in Tallahassee, one that maybe lived in Old Howie, maybe one in the Central District, and one on the waterfront. Because then everybody gets a chance to talk to their neighbors and know what's important to that part of our community as a whole. So you know, I think they're all very qualified to help us, but I think if I was going to nominate somebody, I would nominate Mr. Permals, only because of his geographic difference and his prior experience, and I think he would kind of represent. There's a lot of change that's going to be coming down here to the central part of the town. Even with the DOT meeting that we had the other day, in terms of the road widening and the lanes, the turn lanes, and everything that's going to be right out in front of his house. And I think, you know, if we hope to grow this district and stuff, I think it's important to have somebody actually down here that talks to their neighbors and their friends that live down here. So I think if I was going to make a motion, I'd make a motion to recommend Mr. Permals for the job.
Okay. Do I have a second on that recommendation?
I don't have a second. I feel like I have a comment, though. I do have a comment.
Sure.
I do have a comment, actually.
Okay.
I think along the same lines, is my partner here next to me. I'm having a difficult time because I do believe all the individuals here certainly have expressed, and certainly verbally expressed them, I think, which is important for why they want to be on this board. But what I'm struggling is how do you objectively identify? Because then what we could be doing is recommending all three of them going up, and then we've left it to the town council to make a decision based on all three. And I don't know how they objectively look at it. And so again, it's probably more of a long-term process to reevaluate, again, along maybe the same lines, if not at a regional, but looking at what we have. But I'm sometimes a little uncomfortable. This is almost more like an interview process that we would be doing on our workplace, and we'd have a whole list of other types of questions, and so sitting here just determining what it is that we would want somebody to to be here, and then deciding amongst us, what's the best answer for that. I think there's a couple of things that I wish that we would have a better sense of, such as what really is more of an objective way to identify who would really be good on this. And so that's a comment that I'd like to see us in the future. I think as a board, I think nothing that we can do about it tonight. I also, I guess if I had to select someone again, instead of allowing the town council to choose one of the three, not knowing how they would choose and or what objectiveness they would look at, given the answers that I heard tonight, the best answers that I heard tonight did come from Mr. Formhalls, and that would be also, I guess, what I would go for. So I guess
Okay. So we have a second on.
I guess that would be a second.
Okay.
It's a long-winded second, but it is nonetheless.
Okay. So at this time, we'll.
Should we
Everyone's still
make
talking.
comment?
Huh?
Should we make comment or not?
Well, I think at this point, let's just do a roll call and see. Oh, public comment. Thank you, dear. Disregard the beer. Public comment.
You're on cold medicine.
Yes. Good drug.
The medicine.
Hi, Tim Everline, 1012 North Lakeshore. First, I want to thank all the candidates that are here. I think it's really great that you're willing to volunteer your time. So thank you for that. And, unfortunately, there's only one opening. But I just want to say in the 3 years that I have been involved, Eric Gunnish, I see frequently at town council meetings. Eric and I don't always see, the same things, but he's been here. He does his research. He's thorough. The other two gentlemen, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before. But I would just, I would recommend Eric just because of the involvement that he's had. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Jonathan Arnold, 303 Terracotta, Howey-in-the-Hills. While I can understand why Mr. Heverline would support Mr. Gunnish being on the panel, the problem is Mr. Gunnish has a felony conviction. And even if, as he says, his voting rights have been restored, full rights have to be restored, not just some. So unless he can say his full civil rights have been restored,
Is that true?
of which, by the way, there's a 5-year limit on that. So it'd have to have been in effect for 5 years. But his conviction was in 2023. So this time, I'm just going to have to let you know that Mr. Gunnish, I do not think is eligible to be on P&Z. That's all.
So let's stop right there and ask
John
Dawn.
did just say that is correct based on the
It's-
charter.
It's in the town charter. You cannot be a town councilor or a board member or a employee if you have a felony. Period.
Okay, then why did you accept his application?
Because I have ministerial responsibilities, I have to accept all applications that come through.
Okay, and should we have waited till Counselor Arnold told us this, or?
That has been said the last time he applied too.
Okay.
So
But not everybody was here. And I thought he must have gotten all of his rights restored.
That's up for him to say.
Okay. Thank you.
Eric, I will say that I appreciate all of your involvement because you are very involved. I'll be quite frank. When I'm looking for people that come and want to be on the boards, the fact that they haven't had involvement, first time I'm seeing them is when they've applied. because I've had tons of involvement before I got to P and Z. I did all the events, I did, all this volunteering, and I think that that is an informed citizen that is looking out for their community. And I am so sorry that unfortunately it sounds like you are disqualified, because I'll be quite frank with you. With all of your involvement, I see you on the Zooms, when I'm on the Zooms, I feel that you have been a very active and good member of the board. So I do apologize.
5 years.
Yeah. Well, I do feel like, and for anyone else that wants to be involved in something, you have to start somewhere. You can't just come to these meetings out of nowhere and all of a sudden want to be a part of it when you haven't done the due diligence and the research and the groundwork to know what we're about and how we function.
Yeah,
Um,
and if I step up, sort of, if I may say something, as far as my qualifications, the fact that yes, I have a felony conviction. Yes, I have applied and received all of my civil rights back and everything else. It has not been 5 years. The fact of the matter is that just because I have a felony conviction should not preclude me from being the most qualified person to do the job at hand. And there really isn't a whole lot I can do about it at this point, unless, of course, town council wants to amend the town charter.
Well, again, I appreciate your interest in being involved.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope that you continue to participate in both P and Z and town council meetings.
Oh, absolutely as well.
Yes. So at this point, any other public comments? If not, we have a motion and a second for Bruce. So we'll take a roll call vote. Josh,
No.
Eric,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Tina, yes. You said that Richard is on the phone?
He's
No,
falling
okay.
back off.
Okay.
So.
Paul.
Paul, yes.
Alan, yes.
So at this point,
Should we ask him
It's-
if he has any?
no, at this point, he's been on the board before. At this point, we'll do a unanimous recommendation for Bruce to,
No.
No, it
wasn't.
It's not gonna-
oh, pardon me, I'm sorry. Except for the one unicorn.
You're welcome.
So we do have, though. the
Unicorns are
majority.
lucky, by the way.
Pardon?
Unicorns are lucky.
Yes.
Just thought I'd throw that in.
So Bruce, what would the town council meeting be that, this would
Excellent.
come before?
So this is gonna come before the first town council meeting in April, which will be the second Monday of April, which is
13th.
13th. Thank you.
Yep.
But I will say that I would recommend that all the applicants be there, because once again, this is a recommending board. It's not a decision-making board. So town council will have the final say over who is going to be on the P and Z. So that's how that works.
Thank you. April, our second item is consideration and approval of the Meritage Homes architectural elevation approvals, the Hillside Groves PUD. Do you want to go over that with us, please?
Yes, Chairwoman, I'd be glad to do that. You have already approved as a board several architectural elevations for the Hillside Groves residential development. The developer of that is Meritage Homes. So they have an additional request for elevations that are before you tonight. It would bring a total of 10 approved models for the single-family homes and then 3 models for the attached housing in phase 2. The elevations that are before you tonight are just for the single-family homes. Nothing is proposed to change for phase 2. Some of the models were previously approved for specific elevations in the board's first approval. So what I tried to do in the staff report is to go model by model to identify what had previously been approved and what was being requested tonight. So I'll just go through those briefly. The first model is 4R05. That's called the Bellevue model. So two elevations within that model were previously approved by the board in February 2025, elevations B and C. In that approval, the banding ran the entire width on the secondary exterior elevations. Your secondary elevation requires two architectural elements, so that banding in the windows counts for that. The applicant wants to expand this model with additional elevations. And so I provide specific recommendations for this. The first one is to require that the secondary facades and the primary facade of the coastal, Floridian, and transitional to be revised to include the following elements. And that's with respect to walls not being all one color or material. So they would have to meet that requirement. And they currently show a small corner wrap trim. But I don't really feel like that meets the design intent of the LDC. That's just my opinion. So you can take that for what it is. I would recommend that you require that model to be consistent with a continuous band as was originally approved.
So it's that trim that goes.
Yes, sir.
the whole
That's
thing.
right. That's right.
Okay.
And there were a couple of models that came before you all previously that did just that little band. And I think that it's okay if some do just to provide variation, but to allow all of them to do that, it just doesn't seem to meet the intent of the code to me. So that's
Does
my
the band separate the brick veneer from the stucco, or what's the purpose of the band?
So the purpose of the band is to provide an additional architectural element. So it doesn't really separate anything. It could do that, but in some of the models that are shown, it just breaks up the monotony of that one stucco wall. Is really what it does. So
It's an accessory.
yes,
Like
it's
a
an
chair
accessory.
in a dining room.
Kinda, but
Well,
I
was
think
gonna
what
say,
she's
like a
like
sash around
on
the
that
rail.
Bellevue, it's only like 2 feet by 3 inches.
Oh,
So
Itty-
it's
itty
2
bitty.
feet long, and there's another one though after that you have the 2 by 3, but then there's stone behind it.
Yeah.
And I think what she's alluding to is when you run that band the whole width, it creates a different. Even though the paint's the same color, you now have a different paint on the trim.
okay.
Which I assume if they did more than two,
Oh,
do we have a
We don't
10
have a
feet? 20 feet?
measurement.
I mean, just the
Yes,
whole
sir.
line.
Oh, thank you. Correct. We don't have a measurement for that. So technically, they're meeting the code with that. And there were a couple of models previously approved that would do that. There are other elements that they can incorporate that even if they didn't show it on the elevation, we could ask them to, the building permit stage. So they could add shutters or they could add some landscaping in that area. So there's an ability to do that without being that hardcore. One of the things that I told the applicant I would do is I'll sit with them to go through exactly everything that's been approved and what they need to meet. So they still have to meet the land development code, even if they showed a blank wall, they're still going to have to meet the land development code, as well as provide the primary facades on a secondary facade if it's visible from the right of way. So, that they're still gonna have to do that. The other big thing with this item, and I have relayed this information to the applicant with respect to my recommendation. When you did the first elevation approvals in February, these models had the extended porch with the recessed garage. And what's being proposed tonight is to add additional elevations within these models that do not have those features. I felt like it was important that they keep them and that models that don't have that are not approved. My reasoning for that is that 25% of the models offered in the development have to have the recessed garage and or the usable porch. So the usable porch is defined as at least 6 by 10. So the second meeting that added the additional orchid model, it did not have that. It did not have a recessed garage and it did not have a usable porch. The recommendation for approval was, okay, well, this is a variation that's okay because you'll at least have 25% based on what was previously approved. When we add these additional elevations within the models that don't have that usable porch and the recessed garage, my concern is that they're not going to be able to get to that 25% in the entire development. So that's the reasoning for my comment on that. I have spoken with the applicant since preparing the staff report. They believe that they could meet that 25% and would like to demonstrate that to the board. So I don't know if they're online. They may be. I would like to discuss that with you. But that's my reason for that recommendation. The other thing that I wanted to point out to you, and I make that with several of these elevations, there within the Bellevue model, there is an elevation called traditional. And I wanted to point out if you require that they all have the extended porch, the recessed garage, that would remove their transitional elevation, which is elevation D. And so it is one of the smaller houses. Frankly, I'm not sure that it looks like a model that fits into the neighborhood design based on what I've seen with the other elevations. But at least in two of these, so the Bellevue, the Delray, the Hillsborough, it would remove the option for them to be able to use that traditional elevation D. And then the last elevation, which is the Melbourne, you also previously approved the B and C elevations with that. They are seeking to extend or expand the use of that model with additional elevations. I also put with that only allow the extended porch and recessed garages. The final and fifth model that they're trying to incorporate into this request is called the Lauderdale model. It is the only one that's new and you've not previously looked at or approved. My recommendation for that one is it does get approved with all the elevations that include the extended porch and recessed garage elevations. That specific model does incorporate the primary and secondary facades with that one. And then the last two things I put, just based on some of the discussions that I've had with the applicant, is that if whatever your motion may be, that you do that stipulation that all houses on a corner lot or that are visible from the right of way have to have that primary facade, just so that that's clear to them. The additional stipulation is just clarifying that all the walls cannot be all one material or color, and that primary facade shall have one base color and a minimum of one complementary color. And a complementary wall may be used to meet that second color requirement. So those are in the code, they're specific, but they do seem to cause confusion for applicants. So I just wanted to make sure that those were clear. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. And then if the applicant is present, I do know that they would like to speak with you as well.
Are you on there?
Is the applicant in the audience? Are they from Laura?
The only person that we have online is Mr. Don Fisher. If you are,
He's just watching.
then no, we
He's
can.
the fan.
Yes.
Yes.
Or a stalker.
It's
He tells me how I should have said things. I'm like,
like going to MegaCon.
So I guess my question, April, and I'm gonna take this, I believe it was Fran that brought it up many years ago when they were doing the townhouses. The secondary facades So trim around the windows, would that meet? So how you
Yes.
noted, in that Bellevue model, it's the trim came around and it's only 2 foot by 3 inches. So obviously it doesn't meet the requirement to have that secondary aspect. Would trim, I know you mentioned shutters,
Yeah.
but is shutters better versus trim? I mean, trim's gonna be 3 inches wide around the whole window and produce at
Right.
least a secondary.
Right. Trim would technically meet the definition. It bothers me to do that across the whole neighborhood, though. I don't, that's where I say I don't think it meets the intent of
So what
the
do you
land
think?
development
We
code.
say a mix of trim and shutters?
You could say that.
I mean, I'm not gonna say one, because my big
Right.
thing is, I like the fact,
You're not gonna-
right, I like the fact that they're introducing more models. The big knock on Talashe was, oh, they all look the same. The back looks the same, this looks the same. And again, they're willing to bring in a lot more models to make it look different. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I believe it's what, around 680 houses?
Yes.
So only 170 have to have those porches.
Oh,
And
wait, don't say that.
I'm hoping they do more, but I'm saying if it's the 25%,
We should push for real porches.
I'd love to see more, but the development agreement says 25%. So
Say, from your front, I thought that's what you were gonna quote me on. From your front porch, they said, you'll be able to see everything from your front porch, and then there were no front porches.
one thing I would add, if I may, because I had conversations with the applicant today, is that they are very willing to work with the town and understand that they do have to meet that 25%
Mhm.
rule. I don't mean to speak for them, but based on the discussions that I had, they do believe they can meet the 25%. They understand they're going to be held to it. So, we're going to have a layout and they're going to have to demonstrate that they can meet that. And I believe that their idea is by having more models available,
they can
that
mix it in.
they can do that even, so I recommended to them when I spoke with them today that if they weren't comfortable moving forward, they could always bring an entire package back to the board at the next meeting. Their concern with that seemed to be that they have submitted for building permit for their models. And unfortunately, I'm not being able to approve them because there's some things we have to work through with that. And we can do that. That being said, I do wonder about that transitional model, and I do not like getting subjective in analysis here. The difficulty is this is a design element, so if I see something, it kind of, it's a tough one because if you look at the traditional elevation, it doesn't look like the others. It has like this slanted
Mhm.
roof and looks to me what I would deem a lot more modern, or I don't know.
It doesn't look
I-
traditional and
No.
It
and it
doesn't
is-
look balanced.
I
It-
totally get what you're saying. I'm of the mindset that I actually like that it's something different. Because
I
again,
don't like any of them on any of them. I was trying to not say that they're ugly. I was trying to be kind, so I'm just going to say so strike that, John. They're not attractive in any model. The transitional one, they're not.
Yeah, the transitional, it looks like they threw it on there to appease us.
Yeah,
I have a building permit application for one of the traditional designs. And so that was what flagged me. So I really don't want to say anything else subjective, but what I will say is what flagged me when I got the building permit application, my thought was, I have not seen this elevation before. It is not one that was previously approved. So that caught my attention.
So can we unapprove it?
It's not been approved yet. That's the thing, is that, that there are several elevations within a specific model, and that specific model, the elevations that you approved before did not include that traditional.
are we talking transitional, right?
I'm so sorry.
So I just want to make sure. And are we
Traditional.
talking about?
Transitional, yes, sir,
Okay,
that's
Just
right.
making sure.
Yes, sir, the transitional elevation.
Being monitored tonight by a fan.
Hey, I understand. I'm just making sure.
To throw me off a little bit. But I do not sit in the subjective seat to the board at all. It's not my place.
I have a
So,
question about the percentages.
yes,
The 25% with the extended porch and the recessed garage was agreed upon on the models that we've already seen and approved. Can we require more of those extended porches and recessed garages on the new models that they're trying to introduce?
Ooh, I like that, Alan.
yes, and in fact, it's a very good question. In fact, what they have presented to you tonight for those new models, they have elevations that have the extended and they have elevations that don't have the extended. They want the ability to do both. So I believe that gets to what Board Member Huseman is saying is that with the number of lots, the more elevations, and they are proposing to add elevations
Mm.
with the extended garages, then it's possible for them to achieve that. Because within, so for example, within the Bellevue model, so what you approved previously with the extended garages and
Recessed
porches,
yeah.
yes,
Extended porches and recessed garages.
yes, sir, thank you. What you approved for that previous was just for model B and C. Now what they're proposing is that they would also like for you to consider models A, D, and E. So they also have extended versions of those additional models except for D, which is that transitional.
Okay.
The transitional on all of them seems to look like they had some leftover Legos and they kind of put them together best they could.
I don't think the Del Rey looks exact. I think the Del Rey isn't too bad. That's that second one. It more matches the Floridian and Craftsman. It just introduces like an L-shaped brick. And then I think the transitional also on the 2-3, it doesn't have that wonky,
Yeah.
that's modern. So I think
Yes.
it's more what Bellevue transitional, Del Rey transition. No, not the Del Rey. Bellevue, Hillsborough. That might be just the two that I think look wonky.
They all look.
Can we selectively approve
Did you say
and
Hillsborough?
disapprove?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why she separated them, I believe.
Yes, sir, you can. You can, just because they show up on the same page, you can
Well,
not
even the
accept.
two-story, the Melbourne's, just a two-story Lego house.
So what you would want to do in any motion that you
Yeah.
make is to, specifically state the model and the elevation within that model that you would not be approving.
What do you guys think about the Lauderdale transitional? It's not as
I didn't
funky.
even see that.
It's
It's
still a
not.
little.
The other ones are so nice looking. On all of them, and this transitional one is not.
My concern would be if we only approve one, or recommend approving one transitional, then that's gonna be kind of the oddball of the entire neighborhood. So I would think if there was, it would have to be either a, at least how I'm thinking of it, it would have to be either an all transitionals or none.
Add your
Can we
thoughts.
send them back to the drawing board?
I'm not sure the transitionals are
Yeah, winners.
very acceptable.
Well, I mean, I don't have any issue with us just saying we don't like the transitional across the board.
Across the board.
I mean, I was just saying that was the least unappealing.
Maybe they could come back with something else to us.
They could come back with something else.
That would
And
be tremendous.
that was one of my discussions with them today, and I completely respect them for not wanting to continue it or, to push it off because they would like to move forward in building permits with what they have. But we did discuss that if they had any issues with tonight's action, that they could always come back to you again with another elevation.
With an extended porch and a recessed garage.
Yes.
But they do understand that they have to work with me on that 25% rule and coming up with okay, these are the lots that we're going to make sure that we can achieve this, and they're committed to doing that.
So the other question I have for you is, are these going to be like built to order, like people can come in, or are they going to put them up and sell them as is?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I would only be
I know it
assuming.
might be too early.
Sure, but right now what they're doing are trying to build the models or show people what's available.
Yep.
It will probably be both on the front end.
Right.
built
And then they'll
models.
probably do some spec homes.
Yeah,
and
and on-
I just want to make sure that they know, like, look, I mean, 170 out of 680 doesn't seem like a whole lot. You only have to get, and again, all models aside, you have to hit 170 of those with the extended porches, period. That's like non-negotiable.
Mhm.
That's required.
I wish they all were like that.
I mean, it would be great, but again, I think it was already at 25%. So it's,
Yeah, that's in the land development code. So yeah.
so they're following the code there. I have a motion if nobody else, therefore
Well-
done. My motion would be to continue action on the proposed additional house for the 4 previously approved models and 1 new model attached in this agenda item to be used in the Hillside Groves portion of the reserve at Howey-in-the-Hills PUD, the reserve PUD. My specific reasoning is, obviously people here said they don't like the transitional, so if they can make some changes to that, I think that will be important. More importantly, I think I want to see in pictures where we're going to meet those secondary facades, whether that's shutters, whether it's trim, whether it's extending the trim across, all of that. I think that's required. I'm not comfortable with approving based on these pictures.
Can you repeat the motion again?
It was number 3, just so you're aware. I just took what she said, number 3, and my reasoning was based on revamping all the transitional models, as well as providing more details on the secondary facades to meet the elements, whether it's shutters, window trim, or the trim that continues across the entire half of the house or whatever it is.
Were you asking for pictures as well?
Oh, yeah. Again, this picture right here, I'm looking at Bellevue, page 3, elevation E, left elevation, and that's where I saw the side of this house. You have 2 foot by 3 inches trim, but the whole side is a window, stucco, and paint, which they're going to be the next set of all getting called out for being army barracks. So, I mean, to me, fix that, and obviously I think we need to see or call it out. We'll put trim, we'll put shutters, and ideally, I don't think we do all trim or all shutters. I think if we can get a good mix, maybe we say 25%. Maybe we say try to mix it up. Put this elevation with shutter, this one with trim, and mix it up. Because they're by the land development code, they're going to be required to have different elevations anyway. So at least then they can introduce different, shutters on the side, something along those lines.
You know, Meritage has like 6 different developments going on, all the way from Boynton Beach up and past here. Have they built this before? Do they have like real pictures of a real house?
Real photographs. It would
I
be
don't
good to see
know.
real photographs.
I can ask them, some of the conversations that I've had in the past couple of weeks and trying to help them understand what is not working with the current building permit applications that come forward. And this is my interpretation of the conversation, is that this is what they do. This is the shelf version of
Mhm.
the model.
Then they
So
must have ones that they've built and have taken pictures of.
true. I would think so. I
But they're
can,
probably all looking like this.
that
Yeah,
would-
but rather than a 2-dimensional, it's
Yeah.
very hard to see what this actually looks like on a piece of lawn.
Mhm.
You know, I would like a color photograph of what these actually look like.
We
Okay.
might
We can go online and look at it, but
if we
that should be something we can all share.
Okay.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, even then, if they're built like this, they don't have the secondary facade, so they're gonna have to draw so, because if other towns or cities don't require it.
Right.
While I don't disagree, the pictures are great ideas, so we can get that,
Yeah.
but I do think that they still have to meet the code, like.
They can
we're gonna have
Photoshop
to add-
that on for me.
Right,
That's okay.
throw something on there. We can imagine it and say, hey, we know this is gonna continue this or whatever else.
Right.
But I do think even having the drawings with it called out, shutters, trim, whatever else is important.
Yeah.
And April, it would be really nice if you suggested to them, I'm sure you did, but they should probably show up. Just saying, we showed up.
So Josh has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I would second that.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call, Josh.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Take it back.
Sorry. Okay, may I have public comment? My public comment is, oh, go ahead.
Hi there.
Hi.
Good evening. My name is Mitzi Maxwell and I live at 803 Camino Real Boulevard in beautiful Howey-in-the-Hills. I'm speaking briefly from a process and long-term planning perspective. As the board reviews items like architectural elevations, these decisions shape the character of the community over time. So having clear and consistently applied standards is important. More broadly, I think it would be helpful for residents to better understand how these standards and criteria are used across each step of the process, from staff analysis to planning and zoning recommendations to final decisions by council. I also really appreciate the role staff plays in that process. And I think that making the evaluation framework more visible, more transparent, helps everyone, including the board and residents, and follow how those decisions are reached as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Eric Gunnish, 448 Place, Howey-in-the-Hills, Florida. Josh is correct on all of that, requiring the pictures, everything, so on and so forth. And you guys think we're gonna table this, we're not gonna approve any of this stuff until they come back with the additional stuff. As far as the LDC goes, Mitzi made some very good points. Yes, everything, we need to have a little bit more clear and concise standards of how things are applied, and how the builders and everybody pushes back against everything else, because the LDC says we have to have separate facades. Okay, well, now we're going to ask for 25%. I think between the three options that they put out there for changing those elevations, I think you should go and just make it thirds. A third of them need to be this, a third of them need to be this, and a third of them need to be this to fix that funky looking wall. Because I know every one of the Avalons that are in Tallahassee, which is the majority of the houses, on the front bedroom, there's just one window. And then you have the bathroom window, but then where the rear bedroom sits, you have from that door to that wall, that's just solid stucco. There's no windows, there's no anything. I don't remember if there was an option to put a window there, but it's just a big solid wall of stucco. And the master bedrooms don't have very much light, but they do, unless you get the built out bay windows, and that was like a massive option. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional community comments? Okay, if that's the case, I will close public comment and we will. Roll call. Yes, thank you.
Josh, yes.
Eric, yes.
Fran, yes.
Tina, yes.
Oh, yes.
Alan, yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. And so then we have the next item is the code amendment to allow shed locations in the side yard. April, you want to walk us through this one?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you, board members. At the last board meeting, our agenda item was approval of a shed in an alternate location than the rear yard. And at that time, there was discussion about bringing back to you some proposed amendments to the language that's currently in the code. And so what I did is I put together proposed language based on the discussion, and you'll see that presented in the staff report. So basically what it proposes to do is to strike the provision that says that sheds can only be located in the rear or in the rear yard. and not in the side plane, not in the front plane as well. And so the way that I changed the language was to add that sheds may be placed in the side yard as well, but they would have to meet a 5-foot setback from the rear and the side property lines. And also put in there part of the discussion that they be located behind any fence on the property. And then just reoriented some of the wording to stipulate that a shed cannot be located in front of any principal structure or in any front yard. So basically what that would do is an applicant would be able to put the shed in the rear yard, they'd be able to put it in the side yard, but they would have to maintain a 5-foot setback from both property lines.
And in the side yard would have to be behind a fence.
Yes, sir.
Yep. That's called out in there, I think.
Okay.
And how far back from the front of the house?
It can be up to the front face.
Oh, right up to
Yes.
the edge of the.
Yes, as long as it's
But your
behind the
Your
fence.
fence is not open.
Well, but that also depends where you're at. Keep in mind, so like in Old Howie, some of them
That's
can have
true,
fences in their
because,
front.
Albanese
But they wouldn't be
is
right.
setback
We're
from the front
HOA
property.
requires
Right.
8 foot.
8 foot.
So we kind of discussed that. So again, it's gonna vary, but that's why we kind of said, I think Alan and I, he was like, look, it needs to be inside the fence, which I agree with.
Yeah.
But again, if let's say you fenced your whole front yard and your side and your back, you still have to be behind the rear plane. If like you can put it in the front yard. Yeah, it still has to be behind that frontal plane.
Yeah.
Great.
And it still has to be 5 off and 5 from the rear.
Yes.
I think that.
I think it just opens it up more and again allows more land use.
So if you all, whatever you're comfortable with, the next step would be for staff to prepare a proposed ordinance for you all to consider formally as a recommendation to town council. So that would be our next step.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
So I do have one thing, sorry to jump in here. On 50109 in the land development code D, it does call out anything over 144 square foot. So anything greater than, I mean, 12 by 12 would still be considered the 5 and 5, but it refers to going back to 50103F, which talks about accessory buildings. And I think there's ambiguity. It says gazebos and similar accessory structures over 300 square feet or less may not be placed closer than 10 feet to the rear and side. So if someone does a 12 by 20, are we going to require them to go 10 and 10? Like what's our, because again, I don't want it to be ambiguous because I think that's part of the problem now. The ambiguous is one of the big problems. So do we have a consensus on that? I mean, do we say 144 up to 144, you still get your 5 and 5, but then do we refer back or do we just call out anything over 144 must meet X setbacks?
Which one is that? 501?
50103F is where it refers to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 5, you have to jump from 50109D is where it calls out that 144 because it said sheds over 144 shall comply with the setback requirements for accessory structures set forth in section 50103F. And that F is where it calls out 10 and 10. And again, my concern is the ambiguity there.
We want to give somebody a little space. We don't want to give them like a whole addition to the side of their house, do we?
No. And that's what I'm saying is, but what, because a 12 by 12 shed, you can still do 5 and 5.
Mhm.
But if you go 12 by 14, which is just slightly longer, now technically you have to go 10 and 10.
It's always that extra inch that you.
Hey,
You just want to put a pool table in or something,
maybe. I've got my shed, I'm good.
but not one along the side of the house.
Oh, actually it is.
Oh, okay.
That's why they closed the loophole.
So ineffective, to look at it, you could, if it's larger than 144 square feet, it's treating it like it would a pool, the impact of a pool in a yard. Because that is what the reference to 5.01.03F is, the reference to the section about setbacks for pools.
Okay.
So, there's two things there. One, it is a good idea to make a code as clear as possible. And sometimes your references change. So I think it would be good to just say if you're over 144 square feet, you have to meet a 10-foot setback. But it sounds like you're probably discussing two issues, the clarity in the code, and then also if you want to require that larger setback for the larger shed.
I don't want them to have a larger shed. Remember when we talked about pool accessories and I thought it was the stuff?
Yeah. Well,
That's what I'm thinking
no.
of putting in this shed along the side of the house.
Right, but you got to figure too, a lot of the newer developments coming in, well, I think every development that's being built is going to have an HOA. Their rules are going to be more strict
Yeah.
than the town as far as like ours, you can't go above a 7'4" roof height.
Right.
It also cannot be metal, it cannot be aluminum. And in Old Howie, you can get metal, aluminum, you can do all those different things. The only place really you're going to see a giant barn would probably be over there. They're not going to be allowed in the HOAs. Unless somebody just decides to throw it up and doesn't ask. That's going to be the thing.
They can't block their window. I mean, we should make some you can't block the windows of your house.
Maybe they want privacy.
You can't
Do you want to see them naked? I mean,
The only thing I would caution you with that is that local governments don't enforce HOA documents.
Right.
So they're basically, we're blind to them, they're blind to us.
Mhm.
So we would only go by what's in the code, and then it would be between the property owner and the
Right.
HOA as to something being different.
I think after 5x5, we want them to get a variance and come before us.
no.
Oh.
I think the 144, I think a 12 by 12, I think the code at 12 by 12, well, there's one right now that
I'm
did get
sorry.
approved by town council that was, I think, a 12 by 20.
12 by 12. I'm sorry.
Said 5 by
I'm sorry.
5.
12 by 12. I was thinking setbacks.
Yeah.
12 by 12. I'm sorry. I was wondering why you.
Fine. I'm like, good lord, man. Cool. I put my bike in there, my single bike, and that's it.
Sorry.
Not even. That'd be true, yeah, affordable bike. Maybe my Segway.
I'm sorry, but when we exceed that 12 by 12, then I think they need to come to us because this is on the side of the house.
Well, but we could also say, look, 10 and 10, and you got to figure those newer developments might only have a 10-foot setback, which means they can't put it in the side yard anyway.
Right, right.
So if you go bigger, then, I mean, but you also have things like a lean-to shed, which is where they can attach to the house. And if they can attach it to the house and still meet the 10 feet,
Mhm.
then at least, again, my whole point of bringing this up was not restricting land use.
Mhm.
But I understand also it should not be, oh, here, go put up a barn and screw your neighbor.
Right.
I'm not going for that either. So I think that we should call out, instead of referencing back to 50103F, that we can say anything over 144 square feet is required to meet a 10-foot and 10-foot rear setback, side and rear. My apologies.
Which, the way I understand that, you're saying the same thing that section reference
Correct.
does. You just want it to be clear to the reader.
100%, because like you said, if you take out 50103F later, then it all gets, and again, it's not ambiguous if you call that out that way.
That's the way I understand it. So it's not looking to change that larger setback for the larger shed. It's just stating that specific setback at the end of that.
Yep. So basically at 50109D, instead of referencing to 50103F, sheds over 144 square feet shall comply or shall meet a requirement of 10-foot side and rear setbacks. And basically everything you have written here still can't be in front of the house and all. Basically just rewrite it, but just saying that over 144 square feet, it goes from 5.5 to 10.10. Is that all? Y'all agreeable with that?
Yeah.
Is there any public comment regarding this discussion? I don't know. I don't.
Public comment, Eric Gunnish, 448 Avilia Place. I agree, almost 100% with everything that Josh is saying that needs to be in there. One point that I would add to it on like the setbacks, et cetera, so on and so forth, anything you put in there must apply for a variance. If you want something different, you must apply for a variance. You also have to take into consideration, the 720-3045. That is the state statute that overrides HOA restrictions for anything that's not visible behind a fence.
Okay.
So you could actually put, and I know the specific shed Josh is actually talking about, it's it's my neighbor's. And I think it's actually 12 by 25.
It's pretty big.
And it sits, oh, he's got a 6-foot fence and I think it's 2.5 feet above the fence.
He meets the roof line for the HOA.
Barely. But he painted it the same color as the house. I mean, it doesn't bother me. It may bother other people, but it doesn't bother me. Now, if you have a 6-foot fence, like my house, if I put up a 6-foot privacy fence, my side yard where I would actually put a shed is on the garage side. I have 9.5 feet before I reach the actual fence line. I could put a 4-foot fence there, but then I have to, okay, now am I going to get denied? Do I have to go apply for a variance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I think that kind of language absolutely needs to be in there. If you want something on the side yard, you have to apply for the variance. The variance has to get approved before the HOA can approve the building of the structure if you don't have your giant privacy fence and all that other stuff. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Any additional public comments? If not, we'll close public comment. And this is just a discussion, correct, April, at this point?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's the same thing. This is discussion. We will, at your direction, we'll bring back a ordinance for you to consider as recommending to town council.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next discussion is the chain link fencing allowed in all residential zoning districts.
So this discussion item is before you tonight because there has been some confusion with the code in respect to chain link fences. So staff is seeking direction to ultimately prepare an ordinance that will clarify the code requirements for chain link fencing. There are two sections in section, or two parts in section 5.01.07 that are relevant to this discussion. There is one item in that section that says in residential areas that fence types shall be made of certain materials. And it says that one of those would be black or dark green coated chain link fencing. So it doesn't list specific zoning district, it just says in residential areas. That's item D in that section. And then when you look at item H, it specifically says chain link fencing is allowed in agricultural, rural estates, industrial, institutional, recreation 1, and public zoning districts. So the way that I read that, H limits where you can have chain link fencing. D that talks about the green or black coated chain link fencing just says that if you're in a residential zoning district that allows that, then you can have that. But it has been read in a way that would, because it says in residential areas, you can have that chain link, that would apply to all residential zoning districts. So the question to the board is, would you like to recommend to town council that chain link fencing be allowed in all residential zoning districts, or only allow it in those that are currently listed, which is agricultural, rural estates, industrial, institutional, and so on? There are properties that are in MDR1 that they may have had a chain link fence before, they want to replace it, and they would like to do chain link fencing again. And they're willing to do the black or the green coated. So the language that I put in here for your consideration is the simplest one, is that if you say no, we only want it in the handful of zoning districts listed, then you could modify D to say explicitly that for residential zoning districts listed in H, you could have the black or dark green coated chain link fencing. If you want to recommend to the board that every residential zoning district be allowed to have the chain link fencing, then I would recommend that you modify H to say chain link fencing is allowed in all residential zoning districts and then list the others out. So I think those would be the two options.
At this time, do we have any public comment on this? Go ahead.
Matt McDonald, Code Enforcement Officer for the town of Howey-in-the-Hills. It's not necessarily a public comment. I guess it is, but hopefully you'll allow me more than the 3 minutes.
Sure.
A couple of things that I have a question with. I see the word only in the item that was prepared on the 22nd of March. The word only does not appear in section 5.0107H. It just says that it is allowed chain link fencing in these zoning districts. In section 5.0107D, it says fences in residential areas shall, which is an absolute, be made of wood, PVC, vinyl, decorative aluminum, or wrought iron, or black or green coated chain link fencing. I'm not confused over this at all. If you've got a residential zoning, you can have a chain link fence. So that's the only question I have. The only time it says you can only have, I believe, it is when it talks about razor wire. It can only be in certain zoning. So, and if you want to go back in history, this matter's already been brought up in 2018 for planning and zoning. It dealt with a code issue over a chain link fence that was put up. Madam Chairman, you were on
Yes. Yes.
that board because I've read the minutes. So this matter's already been brought up, but it doesn't mean you can't bring it up again. I mean, the code constantly changes as times change. So
I'm intrigued. Where can we use razor wire?
Agricultural, industrial, and public zoning.
well, not where you live. And I can't tell you, the water plant would be an example. I think there's water.
Industrial, agricultural, public zoning.
Right.
Those are the three.
And that's another little item on H. We don't have a zoning classification that just says industrial. It says light industrial. So I don't know if that could be addressed. So anyway, just when I looked up under section 2 for zoning classifications, we have a classification of light industrial, but not industrial. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. Somebody's going to pick that apart. But anyway, the reason why this all came up is that I've been stopped by homeowners who have been denied permits for chain link fencing. So,
Oh, okay.
and that's the reason why.
What areas, do you mind me asking?
It's zoning MDR1.
Okay.
So here.
Yeah, it's Old Howey.
Right.
Not old Howey, but older Howey.
You're talking about this side around
I
it.
think one's over there and one's over there. So on that side, don't ask me the addresses.
No.
Croton, I think, is one. So, but anyway, that's the only reason why.
Okay, pretty good.
And that's it.
On my rural estate, I have chain link fence. So.
But you're allowed.
And it is not coated with anything, because I don't think coating was invented when my chain link fence was put up.
That's another thing you may want to look at. When this code got changed from 2012, when you weren't allowed to have it, to 2018 to 2024, I think was the last update. Between 18 and 24, the word vinyl was dropped off. Could have been on purpose. Could have been
The word what dropped off?
vinyl coating.
Off the.
It just says coating, which could be paint,
Oh,
I guess. So, but anyway, that's up to y'all to decide, not me. So I don't have a dog in the fight, other than code issues
yes.
for
Thank
70
you
more
for
days.
bringing that up. Appreciate it. Thank you.
As far as the chain link fencing goes, I think you should just limit one, not have a multiple color choice. If it's gonna be a coated fence, you have to specify whether it's gonna be PVC vinyl coated or if it's gonna be powder coated or painted, because if it just says dark green or black, someone could go out there with a can of spray paint over a galvanized fence. And then in a couple of years, the paint's gonna flake and everything else because paint doesn't adhere to a galvanized fence. So my opinion would be, just do one color and make it ultra specific. Either it's black PVC, vinyl PVC coated chain link fence, or you could do black, powder coated chain link fence, because the ones, if something's powder coated, as far as a chain link fence, it makes it a lot more expensive. But it's just like the wrought iron, the aluminum fencing, the black aluminum fencing, that's powder coated. It doesn't, as long as you keep the moss off of it and kind of wash it every now and again, it stays nice. So that's my comment. It would just be one color and two options for the coating, not just black or green coated fence, because that can mean anything.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any additional public comments? At this time, we're gonna close the public comment. Any additional discussion from the board?
I think we're at another ambiguity thing here.
Yeah.
That it, again, I think if you, here's the thing, it'd been a while since I walked over an old Howie or new Howie here, but I know there's a whole heck of a lot of chain link fences. And if they need to be replaced and they're told they can't do it for something that they had installed 30 to 40 years ago, I think that's a problem. Again, we're restricting them with something that somebody was allowed to do a long time ago. I personally think, again, when you think about it, this is going to affect those two areas. The vast majority HOAs, it's vinyl or black aluminum. Those, or maybe a white aluminum or a white vinyl, maybe. But those are usually your only options. They're not going to generally allow chain link. We had to fight it out with the town about even doing a chain link around our lift station. So just to give you an idea. So that is something I do think it's a good idea. Do we know, Matt, is everybody's coded? Some of them just regular.
Mine are not, mine is not coated. And what is the point of coating it? I'm not trying to be flippant. Like, does it make it better? And my beagle who jumps on everything, is he gonna scratch the coating?
It's only for color.
It's a color, but it does give it, again, you have when that's made and is galvanized and it's metal, when you coat it, it does make it more smooth. I don't know if it's gonna eliminate the gators crawling over it. I doubt it, but
Also wears.
I
I think the
thought-
vinyl keeps it prettier longer.
I don't know how long my fence has been there. I'm gonna say for a very long time, because there's never been anything pulled on my.
Right. And at this point, if you had to replace it, technically you probably wouldn't be allowed. You'd have to do PVC, vinyl, or wood or something like that. I personally think that we should allow it in all the zoning districts. I'm good with offering the options, black or green. I don't think that's a bad idea to give them a choice. Well, again, metal. I mean, I guess we could go with that. But again, you run the risk of, if you go just metal, I mean, we could do just metal, but I mean, the metal is going to be, I mean, is that technically black to start with?
Of all the fences that are chain link, how many are colored versus natural? Would you say percentage wise?
Give her a guess.
Well, newer ones most of them are colored.
Yeah.
Yeah, newer ones are, but the older ones are the old galvanized.
Right.
So what would you say that Howie has? And can you get still old galvanized? I mean, just plain?
Yes, you can,
Okay.
but you can't have that. The way I interpret
The current code doesn't allow you to have it.
All right. I'm just.
now that makes
Only way
a
you can
difference
have it
from
is if
planning, and
it's
this is
like-
where we're having this is where the issue has come up. There's a difference of opinion
All right. So in
or
Those-
interpretation.
those people who have chain link fences in the town of Howey-in-the-Hills currently, what is the percentage of plain galvanized versus a color, any color, doesn't matter. You don't have to split it out black.
The ones that are old that have been here a while, the color now is rust.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's the other thing, I
Come
think
on.
with the vinyl, as long as the vinyl doesn't get cut, you don't have the rusting problem.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't have vinyl, it's not rusted. Maybe I should take a look at mine.
But if a tree falls on it or something due to a storm, you're gonna have to replace it with black or green.
Yep.
Well, she can just replace a section of it. Shouldn't have to
Maybe.
replace the whole fence. Am I correct, April?
That
Yes.
there are maintenance rules, yes.
Yeah, if it only took out the 10-foot section,
Yeah, then I think it's,
cut that out.
I think it's okay to allow it in all residential zones.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Do we need to call all of them out or just say, I mean, because I know here in H, part of me says that you could just about eliminate H completely. And back in D, just cover that it's fences in residential areas shall be made of XYZ.
You could do that. And that's the issue is the code currently states chain link fencing is allowed in agricultural, rural estates, industrial, institutional, recreational, and public zoning districts. So the way you read a code, if it doesn't list any other zoning district, that means it's prohibited and only allowed in those specific zoning districts. So if you want to allow it in any zoning district, you would just strike H.
I think we strike H. Do we need to do anything about color? Or are we good with leaving it as
But do
black
we need
or
to
dark
say the
green
vinyl?
coated?
Do we
It does
need
say
the vinyl?
coated though. But again, coating could be,
Pink,
Do we need to say vinyl?
we're not allowed pink, no.
pink.
No Hello Kitty house, Fran.
No, they're not gonna paint their fence. Just.
But do we need to call out the vinyl there, or are we worried about?
Look, when you look at my house, you don't even notice the fence because it's just galvanized silver, so it just blends into, you're looking through it to the house. You're not looking, you're looking through it to the garage and all. You're not looking at, oh, wait, it's green or it's black or anything like that. It's just, you don't even notice it really.
The one thing you may want to consider those, since we had the previous discussion about the character and design elements that you're looking for in the town, how does the fencing
It can
line
affect
up with that?
I think it needs to be greener.
it. Do we want to go as far as saying vinyl coated versus painted?
Sure.
Okay. I would agree with that because I do think that the vinyl coating does make a difference.
Yeah.
Now I don't
Wait, what was the other dusting stuff called?
Powder.
powder coating,
Yeah, can you have that?
That wouldn't.
but it is not going to be
Be
cheap.
used on galvanized anyway.
Yeah.
That would be just be like the aluminum.
I've seen it done on
fence.
aluminum fence, but yeah, it
Yeah.
would be.
Help me.
But that's the thing is if you only had to replace a section, you could literally take the ties and just replace that section and leave it. Where if you had to replace the whole thing, then that's a new thing,
Yeah.
a new permit, and then you would likely get the black or green vinyl coated.
Mhm.
I mean, the bars, it doesn't state that the bar has to be, I mean, it's still going to be the same bar. You know, it doesn't, it says
The fencing.
chain link needs to be coated.
So if you meet the maintenance provisions in the code for a non-conforming structure, non-conforming fence, then that's where you would be able to do that.
I'm racing home tonight to look at my fence before this gets passed, so that I can
You got to walk.
cut and paste it in.
So we think our recommendation then is strike H
Mhm.
Yes.
and in the D, black or dark green coated, vinyl coated? Is that the terminology we need to use specifically?
I don't know that you have to say vinyl coated. I'm not a fence, expert with
Because if
respect to
somebody
that.
wants to spend a whole boatload of money, like Matt McDonald said, and they want to have it power coated.
Powder coated, yes, but again, if this just says coated,
You
that
said-
means I could paint it. Trust me, I'm the loophole king. Tell you, I will go out and I would spray paint it just to spite you.
If that's the case, then I would say add or.
Again, it's eliminating that ambiguity.
Okay.
We've been there, done that.
You could say vinyl coated or powder coated, I guess, if you want to do that, because I don't know.
If somebody wants to spend the money,
Right, if you want a powder coat,
then-
by all means, spend the money.
but it needs to be coated, we can do vinyl.
Right.
Something has to be over there.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we clear as mud?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
One more thing.
Yes, sir.
Professionally coated as opposed to like spray.
Professionally, by a professional painter.
Forget I said.
Yes, Eric.
I think Eric had something.
Assuming that we strike, I guess the motion would be then, or the idea is to strike H in its entirety. There is a reference in section F to section H. The sentence goes, all fencing must be uniform in material, design, and color, except for chain link fencing as allowed in subsection H.
Good catch.
We might have to amend.
Strike
Thank
that as
you.
well.
Yes, sir.
Look at you reading today.
Meetings.
Do we need to not discuss this? Can we just vote on it since we all?
Well.
No, ma'am.
Well, it's not a
No,
vote.
but
She has to draw something up and it comes back and
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
And
thank you very much for your
item
input.
6 is gonna be discussion of the architectural design styles for commercial zone. April?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is one that we've discussed before. And the desire was to move forward with respect to coming up with some type of language to incorporate into the land development code. Right now, there's no specific architectural styles that are called out that an applicant must meet. So this proposes to add that provision. So in section 4.06.05, that section of the land development code deals with non-residential development architectural design requirements. So what I've proposed is to add an A, put it at the very beginning. And so it would move the other two items down to a B and a C. And what it does is it really grabs some of the language that was in the PUD development order that we're familiar with Lake Hills. And this is where it would have teeth. And so what is added with respect to this is that there are specific pictures I put in here. Now, we probably have to do something a little bit different just from a copyright standpoint, but I did give credit to where these photos come from that would indicate that an applicant would have to choose one of the design styles that are shown here. And there's the Howey Mansion, which in research that comes up as being Mediterranean revival style. And then the other style that's present is with the Mission Inn, and that, looking that up, that's called Spanish colonial style. So I've given a couple of examples of what that could look like. So the applicant would be required to choose one of these styles to implement, as well as meeting all of the design criteria with respect to massing, articulation, that are already identified in this section of code. And so based on your interest in incorporating this, we would prepare a proposed ordinance for you to consider in recommendation to town council. The other tidbit of goodness, I think, that I wanted to share with you tonight, on your table, this is the architectural elevations that Howey Self Storage has submitted, and they're going to be submitting it for building permitting. They did not have to come back to you for this review because when they came through for their final site plan approval, they included the photo or the sketch that was in the Lake Hills PUD agreement. And their approval stated that they would show their specific details at the time of building permitting. So this gives you an example of what choosing one of these looks like. And Howey Self Storage did choose on their own to incorporate this architectural style. But if you put these requirements in the land development code, then it would be a requirement, no longer a choice. They could choose between the styles you identify, but they would have to do one of them.
The gate is
I think
hideous.
that's definitely needed. Especially as we've got more and more commercial coming.
Yes. And that gate actually matches what was in the detail that's in the PUD development agreement.
He gets. I could climb that thing in a heartbeat.
Alan, still, they've got barbed wire, that could go on.
Razor wire? All right, I'm in.
Are you going to go through the whole of number one?
No, I'm gonna put my foot in there and then like climb up and over.
Do we have, so, I mean, really, I like the idea. My concern is we're basically giving people only two options.
And you don't have to do that. I mean, that could certainly be expanded. Um, these are just examples of what you currently have in
Okay.
the town. If you wanted to give them other options, then you can certainly do that. You could either identify them specifically here, or you could amend the language to say, or another specific design style. The thing is, if you do that, then of course it's the mud, it's the
Mm.
fluidity of what that is. So if you want specificity, it'll have to be incorporated here.
If they're gonna go with something else, they're gonna bring it to us anyway.
Well, right, but and again, my only concern is you think about, again, talking about eventually possibly neighborhood commercial up and down here. This would be beautiful. But do we want every other one to look the same?
They won't, but just
Well-
like homes.
Well,
you
no,
know.
I understand that. I'm just saying if you only give them, the other concern is if there's only two options, what if they say, nah, I don't like those two
But
options?
there's,
Have you ever
there's
gone to
two,
Hills
no,
Canada,
there's not
though?
two options, there's two styles with a zillion options.
So
in this
anything that
piece.
falls under that, I'm not a
Me-
house
Yeah,
connoisseur on
Mediterranean
style.
revival style and,
To the villages, I mean. they
and
could-
Spanish.
different-
So we
Yeah.
can say Mediterranean revival style or any sublet under it.
Yeah.
We have Spanish colonial, and so it gives them maybe
Lots.
30, 40, 50 options.
Oh,
Okay,
tons,
that's fine.
tons.
I just want to make sure that we're not like handcuffing them
Yeah.
and saying, oh.
Everyone's gonna be a mini, Howie Mansion or a mini Mission Resort.
Right,
No.
and that's what I'm trying to
No.
make sure, because again, we're with Hillside Grows, we're like, hey, we want all these options.
Right.
But then if we handcuff ourselves, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of
No,
what
it
we're
gives
trying
them
to
a
do.
lot. Just a
But I
lot.
do, and I like the renderings, I like all that. I just want to make sure that we're not just saying, here's two.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that idea.
At this time, we'll open it for public comment.
Just having two zoning styles for commercial. The Mediterranean revival and the Spanish colonial under Mediterranean revival, that's like this big. Because it's a mix of Italian, Spanish, Greek, etc. It similar to the houses over here, the ones that are craftsman their style tile. But I would propose adding Florida vernacular, which is the native Florida farmhouse style. Make storefronts and everything else look like that. The other one would be old Florida cottage and also craftsman bungalow, because craftsman bungalow would actually fit Howie's character. It's kind of a Victorian, but it fits Howie's original purpose.
This is only for commercial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
okay.
But those can all be incorporated into commercial. I mean, the mouse does it all the damn time. You know, if you look at some of the old photos of the old Howie Hotel and things like that, you know, now it's been kind of changed and things like that, but that style needs to stay prevalent. But you've got to give you got to have more options instead of just limiting it to two. I would propose at least going to having 4 or 6, so that you can kind of move things around, have things look a little different. So like say the development is more more modern, kind of old farmhouse, etc., or new age farmhouse, then the commercial section should match with the Florida vernacular or the Florida old farmhouse. Does that make sense? And then that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Leslie, you want to comment?
But it's not related to this.
Okay, well, let us close this out and then we'll do public comment at the end. Okay, so at this point, where do we stand, April?
This is another discussion, sorry.
This is another discussion item, so you can, you don't have to provide direction on this yet if you're not ready. But if at some point you're ready to move forward, then staff would prepare an ordinance for your consideration as recommendation to town council.
And how long does it typically take for the ordinance to go through?
So the ordinance have to be advertised for public hearing for you all and then also for town council. So it could take a 2 month process.
So it would come, if we move forward, it might come back to us next meeting, maybe.
That's correct.
I think you got enough latitude in these two that you have now with to move forward the way it is.
Yeah. Knowing that there's a bunch under that, which again, I
Yeah.
wasn't aware, but that there's that many under that, that still gives them a lot of options.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the big key is not
I don't
handcuffing.
want to wait. I want to get.
But yeah, I 100% agree there. Yeah, I'd be good with moving forward the way it is.
We need to move forward
Yep.
on this.
Yeah, because at this point, even if we manage to get the ordinance passed, it's not going to affect those commercial properties that have already gone before us.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
It would be only thing,
There
anything
can be no
new
effect.
going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, at this time, I'll open it for public comments, please.
Yep, you can come up.
Tell Leslie it's now.
She's coming.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Manning, 111 East Holly Street. I just want to take a couple minutes to thank Fran for being on this board. I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt thanks to Fran Wagler for all your time and dedication while serving on the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you.
Your service as a volunteer on this board has made a significant impact, and your thoughtful contributions have helped to shape important decisions in this community. Your expertise and commitment has been invaluable. The insights you've provided during discussions were not only professional, but also showed a deep understanding for the well-being of this community and the future development of Howey-in-the-Hills. We are so grateful that you shared your valuable time, energy, and expertise while serving on this board. Thank you again for your dedication and service.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, is there any other public comment?
Tim Everline, 1012 North Lake Shore. First, I want to apologize for recommending a candidate that didn't meet our charter requirements. I was aware of the candidates past, but I assumed because he was on the list of candidates that everything was cleared. I think in the future, if at all possible, I would not include people on the list if they're not.
Viable.
So, yeah, because then to me, if I were in those shoes, I'd be embarrassed if it came out at a meeting like that. I also, Fran, I want to thank you for your years of service. All of you guys, it's volunteer, and really appreciate all the years you've put in. And then I had just a general question. When things come up like tonight, the chain link fence and the sheds, where do those ideas, where do the ideas that are brought forth come from? Is it you, April, as a planner that brings things up? Is it what's discussed at the meetings? Or how does that come about?
It's usually what's discussed at the meetings, or if there's an issue that comes up when applicants have questions, or if there's a code ambiguity when trying to implement it, then we do bring those forward. So it's a mixture of both.
Okay, thank you, guys.
I can elaborate also on that. The sheds came up last. There was a gentleman on, I think it was Hamlin, that wanted to place it differently. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about sheds since mine went in 4 years ago, but I waited till that moment and I kind of seized it. And that was at our last meeting.
Right.
That per the code, we were allowed, he didn't have to apply for a variance or anything like that. It was just permissible. But it was like, look, we know there's a problem in the code. So that's why it was brought up for the sheds.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any additional public comment? At this time, we'll close public comment. Any board discussion?
Good luck, Fran.
Thank you.
Enjoy your 4 Thursdays off.
This time I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
Paul, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Do I get to take this home with me?
Yes, you did. That's your souvenir
Just want to make sure it's not stolen property.
for your years of service. Look at that. That's funny.
Yeah.
You still keep coming till you're officially on, right?
This was it. This was it, honey.
This is it.
Yeah. You forgot to throw me a party at a parade.
Yeah. Oh, those sunshine laws don't allow us to talk to you. Wait, do I-
Now we're past that, right?
Yeah, y'all need my personal cell.
All that, so
Hey.
there will be, the problem is.
I did get the water down there.
Thank you. Did he get the electric deck?
I do not.
Can you find out?
Yep, someone's gonna say something about it. We already have.
He couldn't find my, not him.
Yay, okay.
He doesn't want your German pass.
I understand. I don't want my German either. But I missed 3 in a year, I get kicked off.
A lot of people.
I wasn't allowing that.
Good stuff, April.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Appreciate y'all taking the time to talk through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I know. I think, that's a lot of
It's common. It's just.
back in the day when Bruce was on it, like every month. We had nothing but-
Sometimes they'll give it.
But here's like that.
All right.
Well, good luck on the,